The current drama between team owners and NASCAR is terrible. Team owners have threatened to leave the sport and cause huge shakeups in the overall format of it, and this time they have all the right facilities and sources to do so. NASCAR now responded to their requests, but it seems like the sport isn't ready to give what the team owners want, which means only one thing: a split between NASCAR and the team could be upon us. Join us as we go through the broken business model of NASCAR, how team owners brutally boycotted NASCAR's decisions, and the possibility of the team owners and the sport going in two different directions. It's 8 minutes of pure excitement and drama, so make sure to fasten your seatbelt because we're about to take off. NASCAR operates on a business model that, according to the team owners and the experts, is a bit outdated. From all of the money that's pouring into the sport, 65% goes directly to the tracks, 25% goes to the team owners, and 10% goes to the sanctioning body, which has been predominantly active in the recent period by handing out penalties left and right. Now, the issue with this is that NASCAR, as a sport, owns a decent amount of the tracks that the circus is visiting, so it eventually means it's gathering more money than those 65% because it doesn't have to pay the amount to the owner of the track. On the other hand, team owners are left with practically nothing, and if you think that 25% of the $8.2 billion in broadcast rights that are supposed to be reviewed and re-signed with new terms in 2025 is enough, you guessed it wrong. From all of the money that team owners need to bring to the sport, around 80% comes from sponsorships, which is why if a driver doesn't have a valid and stable sponsor, he is not able to race. Before we go into the statement of one of the business partners of 23XI Racing, make sure to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification posts. According to Polk, who is a business partner of Michael Jordan and owns a stake in the 23XI Racing and the Charlotte Hornets NBA franchise, the current business model is broken for the teams, and now it's gotten to the point where teams realize the sustainability of the sport is not very long-term, which is not a fair system. Polk went on to add that the group that has been formed to investigate further into this matter, which consists of him, JGR's president Dave Alpern, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing president Steve Newmark, and Hendrick Motorsports vice chairman Jeff Gordon, has come to the conclusion that a whopping 93% of the total value of the sport goes directly to the France family. Teams are the ones that are holding the remaining 7%, so if you think about it, those 25% aren't actually too big of a number, and the sport is definitely headed in the right direction. What doesn't seem to ring a bell to the team owners is how the sport is literally booming in popularity and revenue increase, but the teams are having more and more problems when it comes to survival year after year. The costs of operating the team are way too high, and NASCAR is definitely not paying enough resources to the team owners so that they could provide more money and therefore more motivation to its drivers. Polk went further with his rant about NASCAR, saying that he doesn't know a sport in the world where the inequity of payment is so severe. And with Gordon saying that HMS hasn't turned a profit in a long time, and no one is coming close to breaking even this season, it's clear that the team owners are looking in one acceptable direction: split. Keep in mind that this is an issue that has been ongoing ever since October 2022, and from that point on, we've seen massive penalties handed out to teams like HMS. If you add the fact that the team was penalized $400,000 for the Hood Louvers modification in Phoenix Raceway to this statement of Gordon that the team hasn't made any profit in a long time, then you would understand why the team owners did what they did the previous Wednesday, boycotting the quarterly NASCAR meeting. There is one thing that is crystal clear right now: the team owners know what they want and they know how to get it. It's evident that Tony Stewart has reignited some flames with his separate series in NASCAR, the SRX, as it's becoming more and more popular with the team owners and NASCAR fans in general. But if the team owners decide to go down the road of splitting with the sport, will this essentially be a good idea, or will they be forced to beg NASCAR back? Before we answer this question, let's see what some of the things are that the team owners would like to see improved and how their wishes can be satisfied. As we mentioned earlier, sponsorships are the ones that bring a vast amount of money to the sport, from 60% all the way up to 80%. So it's evident that when Mars Incorporated decided to pull back from funding JGR, the team was no longer able to re-sign a driver like Kyle Busch until it found a new source of revenue. Compared to NASCAR, sponsorships in MLB are accountable for 8 to 12%, while in the NHL, it's around 17 to 18% of the general income. Teams feel like NASCAR has more than enough money to strengthen their organizations to the point where sponsorship isn't a crucial piece to merely surviving each season, but NASCAR isn't responding to these needs. When this was first discussed back in October 2022, all NASCAR offered was a small increase in the percentage of revenue, but that came with a massive proposal of cost-cutting from all the teams, which isn't a very doable thing, given the fact that the teams are already working with the bare minimum. Now, the team owners want all well-managed teams to compete for a cup championship and make a reasonable profit. And what this essentially means is they are not looking to double or triple their current profits. Quite the contrary. Teams are looking to make a profit, or at least break even. But with team owners boycotting the quarterly meeting with NASCAR, it's evident that they do not believe NASCAR will talk about these solutions in the first place, let alone offer a solution for it. So we are more and more likely to witness talks about a potential split happening sooner rather than later. But would that hurt the team owners, or would it bring them paradise after spending a couple of years in the hell zone with NASCAR? Let's take a look at the IndyCar 500 and how these series provide a perfect example as to why the split isn't the thing that NASCAR needs right now. IndyCar 500 as we know it was composed of two groups, the first being IRL and the second being CART. The dispute between these two was over the flagship race of the sport, and from 1980 until 1995, the Indy 500 continued to be sanctioned by USAC while being predominantly run by drivers from CART and counting towards CART's standings. Tony George, who was the Indianapolis Motor Speedway president back then, felt that his opinions regarding increasing costs and revenue sharing were being ignored, while CART team owners felt George used his influence over USAC to have a disproportionate impact on the general operation of the sport. After a number of attempts at a compromise board failed, IMS formed the Indy Racing League in 1994, and the first race was held in 1996. The reunification between these two bodies happened in 2008, and prior to that, the IRL began to draw top teams from CART, starting in 2002, which contributed to CART's bankruptcy as they were forced to rebrand as Champ Car in 2003. In 2008, George offered Champ Car management a proposal that included free cars and engine leases to Champ Car teams, willing to run the entire 2008 IndyCar Series schedule in exchange for adding Champ Car's dates at Long Beach, Toronto, Edmonton, and Australia to the IndyCar Series schedule. So the two bodies were able to reunite, but CART saw a massive drop in popularity and was practically diminished to the ground by IndyCar, which in this case was the more powerful side of the story. And while we do want to see that team owners receive what is rightfully theirs, with them having a lot of backup now and a unity that cannot be broken by any NASCAR executive out there, it's worth mentioning that there is fresh energy coming from the France clan, as the youngest and newest executives of the sport are constantly in talks with the team owners and are trying to serve what is being asked of them. Up until now, we've been used to seeing NASCAR as it is, but there is a huge possibility that we'll experience tectonic shakeups if things continue to go down this road. Split is definitely not what the drivers would want, and it's possible that many of them would head in another direction, but effectively, the sport will be headed into a ditch if they do not receive more money from the cake. What are your thoughts on the NASCAR split? Do you think that the team owners have the right to look for more money? And do you think that NASCAR will grant all of their wishes just for the sake of peace and stability? Let us know in the comments below, and after you do that, make sure to click on the logo that will appear on your screen to watch more NASCAR-related content.